these slides here clearly? Okay, so I was assigned the task. I'm actually here. There is a launch of Semicon India 2023 in Ahmedabad. I don't know how many of you know about it or not. This is the second year that the government of India is pursuing semiconductor technology in India. And so I happen to be here, and I'm also here now to participate with you guys on this issue. So I picked this topic to talk about what's going on. Since you are all high-tech people, you should be aware of what's going on in the country. So as you know, semiconductor is a 50-year-old technology. And I've spent all my life working in semiconductors, right from the graduation till today, just working in semiconductors. It's a beautiful field to be in, and you never get tired of learning and enjoying the work because it brings all different disciplines into it. That's the thing I like most about it. It's not just about physics or chemistry and gases and chemicals and electrical and circuit design. Just imagine everything you can imagine has to be part of building a chip. So India decided that we import about $110 billion worth of electronics today in India. And projections are 10 years from now we'll be importing $1 trillion of electronics. That's a lot of money. So Modi ji decided that why should we be spending this much money in buying things from others? Why don't we build them ourselves? To build them ourselves, one is to build just the assembly like we do for iPhone, for Apple. You don't make a lot of money by doing that because you're basically getting everything from outside and you're putting it together, and the value add of doing that is not more than 6 to 10% of the total value of the product that you sell. So the key is you build your own intellectual property, that is your own designs, your own ideas, your own creativity, and then you build from that the chips, and then you fabricate those chips and you use those chips in building some of the devices, whether it's cell phone today or Vision Pro tomorrow or Internet of Things that you guys are involved in, automotive chips. There's so many industries that you can supply these chips for. The timing is perfect also because the total chip industry in the world today is about half it for a variety of things, for storage, for computing, and for analog design and AI and things like that, and automotives. The projections are that in next 7 to 10 years, that number will double to $1 trillion. So if India really gets its act together now and has a fab and has a design house and can become what we call, as you see in the bottom of this slide here, I can't see my own slides. Can you turn around or something, or maybe I need to turn around myself? No, I can't. It's facing you. It's facing you, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's not. Yeah, can you do that? It's meant for Mr. Governor who was sitting there, not for me. But I don't want to hold up the audience. There's an interest going on. Keep on doing what you're doing. So make India a global hub for chip design. As you mostly know, as most of you know, India is well known all over the world as an IT destination. So everyone and anyone in this world, whether it's in the US or in Europe or any other place in the world, if they want some software programming skills, they want to get some coding done, they come to India, which is a beautiful thing, right? We have Infosys, TCS, and Wipro and other companies like that. But if they want to build chips, they also come to India, by the way. And we have 110 chip designers, all locked in to NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, name it, any company, Texas Instruments, they're all in Bangalore and they're all using those chip design. But there's no chip design being done in India for the Indian market, for the Indian indigenous needs. So part of this goal here is to make, by the way, that's a slide number 2. You need to go back to slide number 1. I'm still talking to slide number 1. You guys are way ahead of me. So it says, make India Atmanirbhar. The word Atmanirbhar is, from what I understand, self-sufficient, like you are yourself responsible for doing things. And EDSM, which is electronic system design manufacturing. So So we have to do the whole thing, the entire ecosystem. So the government has assigned $30 billion. You can calculate the rupees, a lot of money. 10 billion for setting up a fab, for a variety of different silicon fab, display fab, gallium nitride fab, silicon carbide fab, R&D, bringing R&D capabilities from outside, upgrading our SCL fab, which is in Chandigarh, to a more advanced node. All those things are there. But we also have a small amount of money that I'm involved in, where people like you can come to us and say, look, I have a great idea, and I want some money, because nobody is giving me money, but we would be much more favorable to give you money, and we'll give you the money to go ahead and proceed that idea and bring it to a proof of concept. That is, tell us whether it's really working or not. Just to even get to proof of concept, it takes $3 to $5 million. So the government has given enough kitty to me and Dr. Paul Raj, he's a professor at Stanford, to decide up to 100 companies, so that's about $500 million, to encourage youngsters to go start companies in semiconductor. This can't be a software company, it has to be a semiconductor company. So all of you can take that money if you come in and ask for it in that regard. I will not talk about the other two legs, which is $7 billion for setting up manufacturing, and there's production linked incentive, and about $13 billion for telecom, battery technology, automotive, networking, solar, and other types of things. But in the first leg of it, $10 billion, we also are helping setting up design centers. Please go to the second slide. Hello? Go to the next one now. No, I maybe did it, yeah. All right, so in chip designs, we have set up a very interesting methodology. Not only we reimburse the money you invest in doing what you do and help you get that money, but we also have set up, and I think Digital Kerala University should be one of the participants, I don't know whether Alex is sitting here. Yeah, is we are going to be providing all the CAD tools. The CAD tools which come from Cadence, Synopsys, and Mentor. There are three companies in the world that provide all the computer-aided design tools to design the chips. And they're very expensive tools. And small startups cannot afford to buy those tools. So what we've done is, on behalf of Government of India, gone to these three companies, made a deal with them at a much cheaper price, because we're going to buy for the entire country. And all these schools and all the students. Right now we have 110 schools, we're expanding to 350. Eventually we'll give to every school. In fact, when I did the panel discussion, I had these startup companies, and startup companies were telling me that even they should be given these tools free. Like, if you guys get up at 2 in the morning and you have an idea, you want to design a chip, you should be able to download the tool and start designing a chip. That's exactly what our goal is. So you don't have to go anywhere, get any approval, and it's a cloud, so data is on the cloud, so you can download it and work on it. So we really, really want to encourage you people to get into the semiconductor world and design, chip design world. And that's the second element of that green thing, is we help you with the tools, we help you with the prototypes, which are very expensive, to make the chip actually go to a fab and come back. These are very expensive value proposition, but we will pay for it. So Government of India is paying everything for you to basically build a proof of concept. And if it's good, not only we will give you more money, the venture capitalists who are sitting on the sideline and not always sure whether your idea is going to work or not, are much more likely to come and give you the money, because now they know the idea is working. So that's basically what I want to share.
Thank you, sir. The next context is set on artificial intelligence, trends and directions, and to guide us more on this topic, I request Dr. C. Mohan for presenting on the same.
Hello everyone, let me see, my slides haven't shown up. So I'm going to give a very brief intro to AI, in the sense of discussing how over the decades this area has been worked on. Let me see, why is it not moving? Am I supposed to be able to move it? Okay. So AI has been around even longer than I've been in America, and I went to America in '77. So don't think that AI is some modern phenomenon. Raj Reddy and company were working on speech understanding at Carnegie Mellon even when I was doing my undergrad in IIT Madras from 72 to 77. So in those days, they did what was called symbolic AI, where handcrafted knowledge was codified. So for speech understanding, they would rely on syntax, semantics, phonetics, and all that to figure out, based on the language and all that, parts of speech and such things. Very detailed way of, on a domain-specific way, codifying the knowledge and then using it to deal with things like translation and so on. Then came this wave, and by the way, in between these sorts of waves, there have been lots of disappointments. So the hype currently, don't think that all of it will come true and all that. There's a lot of hallucination going on with respect to, how the world will be so transformed that you won't need humans and so on. They have claimed such things decades ago also, and then there were these so-called AI winters when people got so disgusted with all of that hype not becoming reality, and then suddenly again there will be hype. So we are in this third wave where, well, the second wave was one where deep learning kind of technologies got used, more statistics-based way of trying to figure out is this a cat or a dog and things like that. It wasn't really based on codifying detailed knowledge about the domain itself. So a lot of training data was used, and so big data and all the revolutions in terms of Moore's law and memory becoming cheaper or CPUs becoming cheaper and things like that. Vast amounts of memory becoming available and storage becoming available of different kinds. And so then people started fantasizing these black box approaches will solve all the world's problems. But the problem with those things is that it will say this is not a cat, but it doesn't say why it's not a cat. It cannot actually explain the outcome. And that's not enough if you are trying to, approve somebody's loan application or insurance claim and such. You can't just say, hey, believe the algorithm, and so don't ask for any explanation as to why your claim was denied. And you can get into lawsuits and so on. So this part of the problem with all this is that it works in certain narrow domains, but it's not general purpose enough. So the future is really going to be the third wave where you will in many ways combine the symbolic AI and the statistics-based AI. Next slide, please. I don't know why this thing is not. Okay, so as you can see from this is a DARPA classification, the US Department of Defense's Advanced Research Projects Agency. So as you see in the case of the first wave, perception was reasonable, well, minimal really, but no learning, no abstraction capability, but reasoning was good because you had codified this knowledge in a very domain-specific way. But statistical learning, perception learning was pretty good, but abstraction was not so good, and reasoning went backwards. So the ideal will be the next generation where there will be improvement along all the four different ways of looking at things. Next slide. So there are many of these problems that you have to think about and not get carried away with some cutesy examples that people throw at you. But in general, with anything else in world, you can use certain things for good purposes, but also for bad purposes. So there's a long list of such things that you can think about and worry about and so on, using it for criminal purposes, warfare and such, or deep fakes, fake news and things like that. Also, people get all excited, especially algorithms kind of people like me and others. Oh, trillion parameter model or billion parameter model. Who's paying for all the computational costs of building such models and actually putting so much MIPS behind it? The way these social media companies and e-commerce kind of companies do it, especially social media, they are not directly charging you for, in your case, let's say, Google search and such. They are making money through a different business model, which is advertising and such. But if you're a regular kind of company and you're trying to do these things, you have to worry about how you're going to pay for these things. And so don't take the social media and e-commerce kind of companies where they might have, terabytes or exabyte kind of data as the normal case. So because in regular enterprises, you don't have that much data. Next slide. So if you look at what IBM had been saying, to go from core AI to trusted AI and also to scalable AI, lots of things have to be done. that also goes from narrow AI to broad AI to general AI. And so we are still in this journey. And along these lines, next slide, you have to worry about explainability, security, twiddling of a few pixels in a JPEG file, which the human eye cannot detect, can lead to a stop sign being interpreted as 15 miles per hour speed limit sign, which can then cause, accidents and all that. And also the ethics of AI, fairness, and it's garbage in, garbage out. Depending on what data you use to train the models, the outcome may not be what you expect. In fact, there's a famous case of the software was trained on white people, and then when a black person showed up, it thought it was a gorilla. So it's as bad as such things that can happen. And also, like I said, in the case of real organizations, the amount of data is not large enough necessarily to be able to train. And so you need to change the algorithm so that they can even rely on smaller amounts of data to do the training and model building and such. And there's also a lot of hardware developments that are going on that are targeted at the incredible amount of MIPS that are required. If you at least go by the benchmarks, the requirements far exceed what Moore's law kind of increases have kept up in the world for a long, long time. So people are now saying, for the kind of computations that are done in these machine learning models, the amount of precision needed is not what you are traditionally, worrying about, double precision, this, that. You can actually have reduced precision, 8 bytes, 4 bytes, 8 bits, 4 bits, and so on. And you can also combine digital and analog, and thereby get better overall computational power to keep up with the demands. And so there is a Stanford Institute, Human-Centered AI, and they regularly put out every year a report which is extremely detailed and covers a lot of stuff, primarily US focused, but they still, look at what's happening in the rest of the world and so on. So they came out with this most recent report, and there they are talking about how more of the work is now done in industry rather than in academia. In the first wave, academia was leading in AI compared to industry. And they're also saying performance saturation is being reached on traditional benchmarks. AI is both helping and harming the environment. So that's something you need to be thoughtful about. And the world's best new scientists, is it AI? Not necessarily. The number of incidents concerning misuse of AI is rapidly rising. And the professional skill requirements, obviously, that's good news for the kinds of people that are students and all that, is increasing with the AI skills, both for hardcore technology kind of usage, but also for adopting AI in your own domain-specific industries and so on. And it turns out for the first time from year to year, the investment of the kind that we know that other guys might be doing, the money bags of Silicon Valley and elsewhere, has come down on AI-related stuff. While the proportion of companies adopting AI has plateaued, the ones that are using AI in their own domains are benefiting more from it than the ones that are not using AI. And also the concern about AI's misuse is getting the attention of a lot of policy people in Congress and European Union and various places. Even in India, there has been a focus on this kind of topic, at least a few years ago. I don't know what the current story is. And Chinese citizens are more willing to, put themselves up for scrutiny with cameras, this, that, and so on. Whereas in the US, the general public is not so enthusiastic. So there's a lot more material here. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to go through all that. So there are a bunch of reports for which I have links here. I'll make these slides available. If you come to my social media posts, you will find these things in the next day or two. So I strongly recommend you look at these things. These are very recent reports that are talking about, what regulatory needs exist with respect to AI technologies. And so it's talking about standard setting processes to identify appropriate requirements for frontier AI developers, registration and reporting requirements so that the regulators have more visibility into frontier AI development processes, as well as mechanisms to ensure compliance with safety standards for development and deployment of AI models. You should think of AI models of the modern kind just like software. You have to worry about its evolution and tracking its history and so on. So if you are a software engineer, you will worry about the software development process, maintenance, bug fixing and all that. Such discipline needs to be applied to even what went into building the model over time, how the model's various attributes got changed with new data and so on. And you need to be able to explain based on what was observed at some point, what version of the model was the one that produced it and what could be the explanation as to why it did certain things and such. So there's a lot more to it than just the whiz-bang stuff that everybody talks about. So there's more slides like this. I won't have the time to go into details. Let's go on to the next slide. So there is also the 3 regulatory challenges that I just went through, and this goes into some examples and such related to that. Even I can't read it because I wish I had a laptop screen right here. I'm an old guy. Next slide. So there is this now. You would have heard all the hype about LLMs are going to take over, ChatGPT is going to replace all the humans in the room and it can do everything. Lots of it is hype. There's a lot of fake stuff it does. It cooks up stuff as if it's real stuff, and it's so persuasive the way to narrate some stories or whatever that you think that it's actually a human produced thing and it should be trusted and all that, but it's not necessarily the facts. So be careful about it. It could have considerable economic, social, and policy implications. So one of the numbers that you will see in that first bullet, approximately 80% of the US workforce could have at least 10% of their work tasks affected by the kind of things that these large language models are capable of, while around 19% of the workforce could have more than 50% of their day-to-day things affected by this. So if you go to the next slide, you will see some more things like what are the areas in normal societal things like interpreters, survey researchers, mathematicians, correspondence clerks, blockchain engineers, clinical data managers, and so on. And I don't know exactly how they went about collecting this information, but they are saying what percentage of these kinds of people's work could be affected. This doesn't mean that their work will be completely replaced by LLMs, but it will be affected to a significant extent in certain topics. In others, it will be to a lesser extent. If you look at highest variance ones, it's search marketing strategists, graphic designers, investment fund managers, financial managers, insurance appraisers, and auto damage and so on. There, the algorithms will have a harder time playing more of the human's role, and they'll have less of impact. Next slide. So then they've looked at how these things like GPT 3.5 versus 4 deal with exams. These are like high school advanced placement exams in various topics, as well as lawyers exam and this and that. And so you see the blue one, which is 3.5, whereas the green part is 4.0. So as you can imagine, from 3.5 to 4.0, it does better in being able to correctly answer more of the questions and so on. These are multiple choice as well as some descriptive stuff you have to give as answer. And they also have added in 4.0 the ability to not only read text, but also even look at graphs and so on. You can do image processing, but it will still output only text. Next slide. So then they are also doing some checking. This is, by the way, OpenAI, the guys behind GPT 3.5, 4 and ChatGPT and all that. So they themselves are being very careful because they are not making available their software for you to go. It's not open source software, right? So this is another question I think you have later on about cloud-based versus whether you can buy it and so on. Let's go on. So they are saying in general, sorry, can you go back? They are saying here that depending on what topic you look at, learning, technology, writing, history, math, science recommendation, code, business, it performs differently. But overall, the story is, of course, from 3.5 to 4, things improve. Next. So there are many limitations. So they are being extremely careful, unlike a typical scientist or even a startup kind of people who want to always paint a rosier picture than what reality is. These guys are being extremely careful because they don't want to get caught, later on with lawsuits or whatever. So they are saying it hallucinates facts and makes reasoning errors. It lacks knowledge of events that have occurred after the vast majority of its pre-training data cuts off in September 21. It's almost 2 years ago kind of information. So, and it doesn't learn from its experience. And it can sometimes make simple reasoning errors which do not seem to comport with competence across so many domains. So when it does so many different things, you generally want to believe that it know all and all that, right? Better than any human who might be a specialist in one area. And there are also security vulnerabilities that it can introduce in code and such. So don't, at face value, think of all this as, oh la la, it's all hunky-dory and everything will be better and all the world's hunger problems will be solved by ChatGPT. Next. So it also has similar risks as smaller language models, such as generating harmful advice, buggy code, or inaccurate information. I think this might be the last one. Yeah, there's another report that I didn't have the time to even summarize, which has to do with how to deal with the quality of the data that goes into, such things. How you have to be careful and not treat all sources of information as if they are all equally good. There used to be this saying, right? If something is on the web or something is in print, that must be true. We all know that's not necessarily the case. So even IBM, when it did a thing called Debater, they had to figure out which sources of information should be thought of as credible sources and which are not. This is just like what you and I used to do in the regular world, right? When you read a review, whose reviews you'll give more weightage to compared to somebody else's reviews and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we move further on with our next context, and it's set on digital biology. And to put more light on this subject, I request Professor Vijay Chandru to preside over.
Thank you. And in the words of Monty Python, now for something completely different. Right? So, digital biology, and I really hope Digital University Kerala, actually becomes a center for digital biology as well, because biology is becoming digital in a big way. So I just want to take you back. I know nobody wants to remember the pandemic anymore, but just think about the fact that there was a completely new virus which was so deadly it could have wiped out 20, 30 million people very rapidly. Right? That's what computer simulations show that could have happened, but actually it did less damage, did a lot of damage, but it did less damage simply because we were able to come up with a vaccine in 11 months that actually, went through, it was actually ready in 3 months, but then it had to go through a lot of trials and clinical trials and safety and then efficacy and so on. And the significant thing is that the mRNA vaccines that were developed both at Moderna and at BioNTech didn't have a virus to start with. They only had the sequence. Right? And those vaccines were actually designed from just the sequence of the RNA. So think about how digital they have become in biology and life sciences, that we can actually start with something like a raw sequence, a string. It could have been a binary string, just happened to be the 4-letter alphabet. and from that actually realized something so important as a vaccine that would save lives and protect people. Right? So this is the power of digital biology, and I think, yeah, it works for me. Right? It was warming up. So this picture is busy, so I don't expect you to see it. What I am trying to convey here is that we have a remarkable overlap in the same time frame of what is happening in computing and information science, and on the bottom there with molecular biology. Okay, so essentially what this is a very remarkable aspect of in the history of technology, that you have these concurrent sort of developments going on and very beautiful exchanges of ideas happening between information science and life sciences at the molecular level. And I think, like right now, we are starting to get to a stage where data science in genomics is actually a pretty core area of work, right? Now, what has made this possible? We keep talking about Moore's law, right? Here is a law that's even faster than Moore's law, okay? And that is the cost of genome sequencing. And the big breakthrough came around 2007. Till 2007, it was running parallel with Moore's law because it was using electronics, using opticals, methods in Sanger sequencing, which was more or less going with Moore's law. Suddenly, it starts accelerating, and that's because this smart guy, chemist at Cambridge, Shankar Balasubramanian, actually figures out how to do these things in a massively parallel way. Right? And sequence short segments of DNA and then figure out how to put it all together. And that's a big stochastic dynamic programming problem, but you can do it, right? And with the right level of compute power and so on, you can do this. This is called assembly, DNA assembly or DNA alignment. Because once you get the first reference genome, after that it's easier because then you can, from that reference, fit against that reference genome and do the alignments. But look at the cost. The cost today is coming down to that, $100 whole genome. So like anybody here can just give some saliva, or if you want to, get into sort of the more sort of interesting stuff, somebody could get one piece of your hair or whatever and still sort of sequence your entire genome. Today, in our labs at Strand in Bangalore, we can go from one dried blood spot on a piece of blotting paper, we can extract up to about 50 nanograms of DNA, and we can run and get the whole genome sequence. It's really no problem. And so, in fact, if you want to collect DNA from all over India, all you have to do is give a prick, put it on blotting paper, and ship the blotting paper, right? And you can sequence, and you can do it. Today it's not $100 in India, but we are getting close to about $200, $250. We are able to do this. And of course, Strand is not the only one. You have a fantastic local hero, Mengenome, and as you know, Sam Santosh, who is also on our board of governors, he's the founder of Mengenome. So we have two labs in India that can do this kind of stuff. It's going to be something that, from a data point of view, we will no longer be saying it's astronomical. We'll be saying it's genomical, right? Because, just think about it, one whole genome, because you have to sequence, you don't sequence just one DNA copy, you'll sequence maybe 30 in order to be able to reconstruct the sequence properly and make sure you getting the accuracy you need. Remember, you need a very high accuracy because one change of one letter in the sequence can cause sickle cell disease. In the hemoglobin gene, just one letter changes and that patient ends up with sickle cell disease. So you can't be loose about this. It has to be highly precise and accurate, right? And that's why you have to sequence many, many copies, which means for one whole genome, you will generate about close to 100 gigabytes of data. And if you were actually looking at the image data behind that, it's already in terabytes, okay? But let's say you just want the sequence. And today we must have sequenced about 1 million. No, I think maybe now about 2 million whole genome sequences all over the world. But just imagine that it gets to a price point where you want to sequence large populations. You're going to get to millions of people. Newborn babies will have their genome sequenced so that that becomes like a passport. Because whenever they get sick, you will know what to refer to, you'll know what medicines will work, what won't work, and you'll know what the risk of various disorders will be. Now, if you were sequencing 25 million babies a year in India, that's how many babies we have in a year, right? So you can imagine where these numbers will go. So that's where these predictions are, that this is going to be a major driver of data science. Right? Now, the interesting thing is not only can we read the genome, we can also write genomes, and we can fix them, we can change them, and we can start playing God. Right? And that's why this book that the founders, Jennifer Doudna and her students, actually wrote a book called A Crack in Creation. We are actually at a point where we can actually alter the course of creation. Now, but the way they found it is very interesting. They're bacteria that protect themselves from viruses. And the way they protect themselves is they have a certain sequence which are called CRISPRs, right? And when there's an enzyme that recognizes that sequence, and then if it sees that on the virus, that particular sequence, then it starts cutting up the virus, shredding it up, right? And so essentially, they found the scissors, and these controlled scissors that you can go in and snip where exactly you need to, right? And once you can snip, you can also attach something there. So it becomes like a cut and paste. It's a cut and paste operation. That's all it is. Right? Now you have to control it so it doesn't go cutting and pasting all over the place. And that's been one of the fears with the mRNA vaccines and so on. We don't know what effects it might have later on because it's nucleic material, right? RNA fortunately doesn't last for long, but DNA does. DNA will survive for, even now when we go and dig up a skeleton somewhere, we can get enough DNA to figure out the sequence. So ancient DNA, is an important area in archaeological research. So I think, it's a complicated and difficult area, but it's coming under control. People are figuring out what to do. The market here is huge because today curing someone with thalassemia or sickle cell can be done. Yeah. Pharma companies today charge $2.1 to $3.1 million to cure one patient, right? In the West, they're saying it's a good deal because once that patient has this disorder, the lifetime cost to the system of maintaining that patient is on the order of millions. And so if we can cure them, then it's okay. Like we should pay for it. And so insurance pays for it. Right? And that is driving innovation. So, they're starting to get more and more applications. We'll figure out how to bring the cost down. That's India's specialty. That's happening. I just want to end with this idea that we are now in an age of living machines. We have to think of how we can actually manipulate biology and create all kinds of very impactful areas, right? We just talked a little bit about gene therapy, right? We could be looking for energy storage breakthroughs. We could be looking at regenerative medicine, microbes by design for better precision fermentation technologies, whether you're making biologics or you're making insulin, what is the best microbe to use? Maybe you can engineer it to be slightly more productive, so there's a huge industrial application. And, and then it can go all the way to mass personalized nutrition, regenerated biodiversity. We could actually get cheetahs back in a very different way, right? And so it's a very exciting world out there. If you want to know more about human genomes and what they mean clinically, read the book by Ramesh Hariharan, my co-founder at Strand, absolutely brilliant young man. This book called Genomic Quirks, it's been cited as one of the best books in genomics. A Crack in Creation, written by Jennifer Doudna on the writing and the CRISPR. Regenesis, about synthetic biology and what the opportunities are in industrial biotech. And The Age of Living Machines is written by the former president of MIT, Susan Hockfield, who's collected case studies from around the world on how living machines are starting to be created. So, stop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So next we have a fireside chat panel discussion with our esteemed dignitaries. And as mentioned earlier, the session will be moderated by Shri Anup Ambika, CEO, Kerala Startup Mission. The stage is all yours, sir.
I'm going to stand a little bit and probably you can use the mics. So we only have probably 12 minutes before 4. I want to really open it up for questions from the audience because that's what we should have an interactive session. What is a fireside chat? It's something that I wonder all the time. Is it like people sitting around a fire and talking, or is it igniting fire from within? I don't know. But let's just assume that this is like a fireside chat where you ignite the fire of knowledge from within, right? I know it's very difficult to get a question from a bunch of students who are sitting here. I mean, I'll spare the professors. But I'm going to ask some questions to you. How many of you have heard about a term called fab? How many has a background in electronics? Okay, very nice. So we know you have got quite a crowd, waiting to ask questions to you. How many have heard about the term fab? Okay, I want somebody to explain that to us. Can somebody raise a hand? Alex cannot, but everybody else can. All gone down. Anybody can explain the term fab to us? What is a fab? Can you hand over the mic to somebody who wants to answer? Yeah, go ahead. You can answer. That's okay, actually. We will learn a thing or two before we leave the room.
Basically, what I know is
fabricate chips using different kinds of materials with maybe silicon.
I think that's as much as I know. You know. So anything to be added? Anybody else wants to add anything? A raise of hand. I saw a lot of people raising hands, but nobody wants to do it now. Anyway, that's okay. I'll point the question to Vinod. Do we need to build a fab in India? Yeah, I mean, I'll also put.
Yes, we need to build a fab in India.
Why do we need to do that?
We need to build a fab in India so we can fabricate chips in India that we need for all these devices that we import from all over the world.
And would you agree that the definition of fab, as
Yeah,
he said,
I think he did a very good job. I think look at this. He had the courage to stand up. All the people who raised their hands didn't even.
What's your name?
And
What's your name?
secondly, he talked about, some of the chemistry and the chemicals, and he used all the key words in there. I think it was pretty good. I would give him definitely a B+.
And your name? Vasudev. And you completed a MSc or
Yeah, doing my PhD.
PhD in?
AI hardware control service.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Alex, you can withdraw. Okay. But you have a question? Okay. You're just holding the mic. You said we need to be self-reliant when it comes to electronics, and then brings us the question of why haven't we thought about it in all these years?
We haven't thought about it for all these years for a variety of reasons. There were many attempts. The government looked at it, but they could not afford or they could not come up with the huge amount of capital expense. Like you saw, $30 billion is a lot of money. And that's for creating the entire ecosystem. They couldn't come up with it. But in the current government, not only recognize how important the chip is to the security of the nation, for it to be counted amongst the top nations in the world, and also to have its own destiny controlled in terms of building chips for example, all of the warfare. As some of you may be following in Ukraine-Russia war, the war has come down to drones. The drones are sneaking in from one country to the other, and damaging tanks and things like that. So all of these things, by the way, there's a missile that America gave to Ukraine that you can fire from your shoulder. It has 1,800 chips in it. And the accuracy of that missile is so pinpointed, and since America knew exactly the commanders were in the battlefield, within the first few weeks of the war, they say 60% of the commanding people from Russia were dead. This is how accurate. That's why the war, by the way, was supposed to be a 2 or 3 day war. It's been going on for more than that time, and I was talking to one professor who's visiting from Germany here, since he's a next door neighbor to Russia, get his opinion, and his opinion was to carry on for a long time. So I do agree with him. I just wanted to test or validate my own thinking by talking to people who truly have a different view about it. So no, I think this is a very important thing that we should control our destiny and moreover conserve our dollars by not importing so many things from outside, perhaps by learning how to build them ourselves at home.
Thank you. Any other questions that you would like to raise? I know you have a point, yes.
I want to follow up on this one. Am I audible?
Not with the mic.
Is it possible that in addition to a question of priority, where in the past maybe we thought some other area should get that kind of investment, now the government, for whatever reason, thinks it should be this. Is it also the case that what China is suffering now from the US side and its allies, where US is refusing to send certain chips to China and so on, we could then say, hey, India could be in some future time put into that kind of situation. So we should be a lot more thoughtful about it now than worrying about it when it's too late to quickly do something.
That's a very good. That's a good theoretical question coming from a professor.
Hey, I was in the industry for 38 years.
That's what he claims, but the point is, we are just starting this year. For us to start worrying about, at some point, we should make sure that we have all of the equipment, design, and all the things that are required to process the silicon itself, also designed in-house. So that one day America doesn't pull the rug under us and leave us high and dry like they're doing with China. It's a very good question, no doubt. But I think we can wait a little bit longer before we ask that question, because we are a baby who's taking the first step.
More than that, I think I've been told we had a very good discussion prior to this panel discussion. And what I'm told is it's probably one of the most beautiful engineering processes in the entire world. That is what he told me.
It's the most complex item that's ever built by humankind. And if you have any interest, please go on YouTube, try to learn as much as you can. The process of building a chip is like, imagine you're building an entire city, except you're building it on a lovely thing, and it's both vertical and horizontal, and it needs to be connected with metal, and there are so many layers of different chemicals that are to be used in order to build it, and lithography, which by the way, since Moore's law has run out of steam, at 1 micron, 1 nanometer dimension, which is very, very small, 1 billionth of an inch is 1 nanometer, billionth of a meter. There's only one company in the world, ASML, in Belgium, that actually is able to build their equipment, and the equipment cost itself starts at $250 million, it's about $1 billion for one piece of equipment. This is how difficult and complex these things are, and that's where the industry has come down. And the nice thing about it is, all of you can be employed in semiconductors and still not be enough, because we need so many different types.
I'll get to that question probably, what are the skill sets that people should have, but I have to say I had the privilege to visit IMEC in Belgium, and I could see a few, Malayali engineers who were working, one a senior vice president and another one a very senior engineer who gave me a tour of the entire facility. Okay, now moving on. I know now people won't raise their hands. How many of you have got a background in biology? Bioinformatics, biology, biotechnology? No one? Okay. Just one, or did I? Is it only you? What did you learn? Can I have the mic there? MTech in? Biotech. What are you doing now? Data analytics. Okay, fine. Have you got about CRISPR? That's what I wanted to really ask. What is your idea of CRISPR and Cas9 as Dr. Sagarika explained?
It is a gene editing technology which got Nobel Prize in 2020. We can actually engineer DNA, and we can actually change a person's DNA and change the diseases. Like the gene that is causing the DNA can be removed and can cure the disease.
Fantastic. It's as simple as that.
It's
Then
not
why
like-
are we still having diseases? Just mutate ourselves and take care of all our diseases that we have. Why have you thought about that?
It's very costly.
That's why.
It is also.
So millionaire can cure all his diseases.
There are people who are trying to become younger and
Let's hear about that. You have Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos who's sitting on tons of money. I mean, obviously they all want to anti-age. They want to stay young all the time. But more than that, if they have a critical condition like immune disorder or oncology, like non-small cell lung cancer or something like that, will I be able to use CRISPR, go and correct my?
Not all disorders are caused by specific variants in the gene per se, or they could be a complex set of variants that mutations that cause that disorder. So you can't fix everything. But there's a very large class of which we call monogenic alien diseases, and those are, sort of the low hanging fruit for this technology, and pharma companies are now starting to go after them. I mean, pharma researchers, biotech, food chain. But it's, I think, the question of sort of these high net worth individuals leveraging the most cutting edge of technology towards their own health crises and longevity, we mentioned. I think there are many, many biotech companies that are actually focused on that. So some of the work that came out of UCSF showed that with certain genetic alterations, the nematode, C. elegans, can increase its lifespan 7 times. And so those ideas have now been spun off into biotech companies in the valley.
Yep.
And are taking forward that. So I think there's a really interesting professor, the journalist at David, I'm forgetting his last name, but he runs a project at Berkeley called the Experimental Man, David Duncan, and you can watch his TEDx talks. His talk is called When I'm 164. So it's a takeoff of the Beatles song When I'm 64. So in which he actually talks about all the research going on, but he also talks about who are the people who want to live forever or as long. And most people, it turns out that, and he does all these surveys, most people want to live long enough to see their grandchildren settle, which would put them probably in their 80s, and they want to live healthy and being able to enjoy that experience, being with the grandchildren, and they grow up and go off to college, whatever. And they also feel that that would be some role that they could play in that. So it's an interesting perspective. So most people say, I just want to be healthy, but I don't want to live into my 90s, right? And it's a different perspective. Yeah. But there will be some 10-20% who say that I want to live forever.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, there is a old. No, we have a poem that we used to study. I don't know if they still teach that in schools. Called Kalan Illata Kalam. I don't know if anybody has learned that poem, which is about, it's about a world there's no Yamadeva. Yeah. So it says what happens when people live forever. It was in my 8th standard or something like that. They taught this poem. But I'll go back. But the point that I was trying to make is it's a very interesting field. Synthetic biology and digital biology is going to be an extremely interesting field. Food is going to come out of that for a major amount of population in the days to come. Now I'm going to ask the most talked about topic, which is Professor Mohan. How many of you have used ChatGPT to write your assignments? Oh no, nobody has done it. Nobody. Everybody is very ethical and
They don't want the
yeah. No, I know my son does, and the college that he studies in has already put in anti-plagiarism where they can detect ChatGPT generated topics, and they have now figured out a way to beat that, and the cycle goes on and on and on, right? So that is how it works. But how many have used ChatGPT? Pretty much the whole crowd. And how many do you think jobs will be replaced by ChatGPT? Jobs will be lost or jobs will be replaced, or you are the only one, nobody else thinks. You do. And what jobs exactly do you think will get replaced? If I can have the microphone. It's just we walk away with 3 things that we can learn. That's it. That's the whole thing. Because we didn't have enough time for a good discussion. But
It's about actually increasing productivity for one single person. So if a job requirement requires 10 man
Exactly.
hours, so it will just reduce to 1. So it's like, in a sense, it won't eliminate completely a job, but it will, like, like when it requires 10 people, they might not require only 20 people. And then that arises another set of skill sets is also going to emerge about prompt engineering and all those kinds of things. So,
example, any example?
so yeah, so one is GitHub Copilot is doing AI. It's autofilling code for you. So the software developers are gonna face in some time. I mean, like it's not like but people who have used it, they say that it's pretty much increased their productivity. So
Have you tried it yourself? Writing code using ChatGPT?
yes,
You have, and it works.
sometimes it does, but you get inspired from it. So instead of you trying to create something from scratch, you get a starting point from ChatGPT. So it's a starting point, and you can complete on it if you understand what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I tried it myself. I believe it's going to disrupt. But Mohanji has a different.
Well, I mean, I'm going along with what he said.
Oh.
It helps in getting going faster, improves productivity, but the monkey is still on your back to make sure that it's not buggy or any of that, like what I mentioned before. So I mean, we have heard about automation getting rid of people's jobs and all that for decades. Not too many of you are that old like a friend me, but and those things didn't actually turn out to be true. So it's in that category I put this one also. That yeah, there will be certain very narrow kinds of domains where it might do a much better job or faster in doing certain things compared to humans doing it. But in the end, you still have to make sure that it's doing things correctly, and it might not fully be trustable. And also then all these concerns about would it introduce certain biases, all the concerns about AI in general, garbage in, garbage out, depending on what you use to train the system to produce the model, whether or not it will work across all sorts of population or only for a narrow set of situations or across a certain subset of the population and so on. The same sorts of things will have to be covered.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll wait and watch whether jobs will get replaced. I personally think it will be. That's my take. But 10 years down the line, we'll all be sitting in the same room. But one thing that
Actually, he had one slide where he had some data
Yes.
from somewhere that showed what percentage of, and there was a category of 100% of the jobs.
Yeah.
And there were auditors and
Accountants,
people like
yeah.
that, we noticed. And or people who were writing things, like he said, instead of 10 people, 1 person. I think that's happening already. So I don't think this is really something futuristic.
Correct.
But the caveat there was 100% of their work will be affected. That didn't mean that their work will be completely taken over by the software, was the interpretation that they have in that document. And it's, by the way, it's produced by ChatGPT guys. It's OpenAI company people. If you go and look at that report, you'll see a huge list of people. So they didn't even list any author name as part of the title page, just said OpenAI.
Absolutely.
Because gazillion people contributed to the production of that. But they list their names inside of the report. They don't want to give authorship for 100 people.
Absolutely. So I've written a poem, I've written my Facebook posts, I've generated images, I've generated code, and used it in day-to-day life as part of ChatGPT, and I believe it gives reasonable results, sometimes much better than what I could write myself. But these are applications. Anybody has used ChatGPT for anything else? Any? No? Have you done that? Who's that? Yeah. How did you do that? Your name is? Oh.
I want to hear what he. Yeah, he's going to go ahead. Oh, he's going to. He said that again.
It's I use it for data analysis where I put all my conditions that I collected the data from an
in the form of a table,
Yes, I just copy the entire table.
delimited, yeah, delimited file, something like that.
And what happens in it, right?
It does,
Yeah,
it does.
It does everything.
I've heard the same thing, running logistic regression on a data set is something that people have done using ChatGPT and it works pretty well. Yeah.
What does well mean? That's the problem.
Well, whatever you
What,
get out of
what
a-
exactly are you looking for? How does it know what you're looking for? You know, you can produce all sorts of stuff.
No, I think well to me means it gives you a head start, gets you to a certain point quicker, and then of course you have to be
Yeah,
sure
that's the
it's
point.
done
It's
correctly.
not like
Nobody
it's-
here, by the way, is saying that AI is taking over and you can sit in your armchair and not do anything. What we are saying is it's becoming a tool that's improving your productivity so significantly. That's all, they're all making the same point. That it changes the productivity thing today, by the way. What happens 30 years from now, yet remains to be seen, but today at least, it's tells you, I do not know whether it's actually.
Absolutely. So that's what that's what I wanted to get to. Other than these regular use, do you have anything to say?
I used to write marketing captions using this
Generating content,
Yeah,
which again, I also do the same thing. Anything else that people have used it for? Yeah.
I just want to bring another point, trying to use it for chip design, there is different application. But one thing is, how do you deal with the IP issues? Because deal with the IP issues. Because once you have the code going in, and the model actually learns it, and which means whatever is being learned, it's available for everyone else as well. And
This is now realism coming in.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yes and no, let me answer that. There's a lot of confusion when discussion between professional stuff like chip design, chip timing analysis, which by the way, not every Tom, Dick and Harry in this world, 8 billion people are doing, right? Versus what ChatGPT was really for everybody in the world, writing poems and writing, greetings and all that. So we are confusing those two in between. For the type of stuff that you're talking about, there's a huge move in place, not to just wait for Microsoft or Google Cloud or Amazon services to do this stuff for you, but all the enterprises who have their own data, and the data it doesn't need to be as big as the data. They want to have the proprietary data be analyzed by same workloads in them. It's a huge business taking off in the valley. Very few people see about it because they only follow these three big companies, and it's going to proliferate. And the company that's actually doing that, believe it or not, is NVIDIA. They are creating their own small data centers and proliferating by millions. They're saying, I don't need to wait for these three guys only to buy chips from me. Everybody should be buying chips. And those companies, whether they're healthcare, pharma, life sciences, or chip design, there is no, hallucination and confusion in that. There's a productivity improvement of an order of magnitude where people will embrace it and use it. In the other area where ChatGPT is used in the current form, absolutely I agree that you should be very, very careful if what you put in and what you get out, you may not really like what you even see what you exercise out because it's not trained properly for that yet. But in the enterprise, in the business segment, there is absolutely it's doing some wonderful things.
the customized LLMs are like.
So that's where we are going. I think there will be customized LLMs with layers added. Yeah.
I used it for language modeling. That is, I just tried it as a benchmark with other deep learning techniques. And whereas in GPT 3.0, it gives a very,
Crappy stuff. Yeah.
and but 3.5 onwards, it's better.
Tremendously improved.
Yeah, tremendously improved.
1, 2, 3 was crappy, but 3.5 onwards it was a miracle. I have one use case from Professor Chandru, in life sciences, and we will end our conversation with that, I guess. But what did you use it for? It is an interesting thing, how everybody uses ChatGPT in their own domains. It's very amazing.
So, one of the nice AI components within CRISPR is how you choose the CRISPR guide. So, I think she will understand. So, the guide is the little string that is going to tell you where the CRISPR scissors have to land. either, so it would make a lot of difference on whether it works in just one location or many locations. It would have a lot of unintended effects. It may not work at all because of certain energy considerations. So there's a whole bunch of rules and, publications, people's experience trying this out. This has actually been out there since 2011. So people have done a lot of experiments creating this transgenic models and so on. And so all this information is there in publications. And we are actually using ChatGPT. In fact, it's a 10 standard, boy working in the summer who essentially turned on ChatGPT and started using it to put together information on what kind of rules would help in eventually picking the CRISPR down. So it's a start. It was a summer project, but I think it's now the team, bioinformaticians are actually taking all that and trying to build the whole system or improve the platform.
Absolutely. No, I think before it used to be a lot of skills that one need to have to do analysis. And suddenly all you need to do is to have is your domain knowledge. And
So this particular application, I would say, is a very advanced curation of published literature, which otherwise would take a bunch of molecular biology PhDs to sit and go through the literature and pull it together. So I think that was.
I was actually at a talk a couple of weeks ago in Silicon Valley by a professor from Carnegie Mellon. So we are all hardcore database people. AI is not my area, by the way. I've spent my entire career working on databases. All this relational stuff in SQL came out of my research lab's database team, and I joined that a little after that original work was done. IBM San Jose Research Lab. So this professor, Andy Pavlo from CMU, he was talking about how he tried to use ChatGPT to make database systems self-managing or giving advice to database administrators and so on about what indexes to define or not to have, and which columns to be indexed and such for relational tables. So his point was, all it did was, it looked at what was out there in various forums and so on, and then it gave a very general, vague kind of advice, which wasn't specific enough for somebody to actually go and just rely on that thing. Because people have worked in the past on index advisor and database design, how to know when to reorganize the database, when to do backups and resolves. So his point was, it's not mature enough in any shape or form for it to give you highly specific advice. And so it's just giving you general blah 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 that any professor can.
I think he has the right answer, but he's barking on the wrong tree. ChatGPT was not designed for this professor to analyze his, complex data analysis. ChatGPT is for common 3 billion users to be every day, doing their chat. That's why it's called ChatGPT. This guy wants what he wants to do. He needs to do what I just talked to Alex about. That is, he needs to take his models, get those workloads, train them with whatever parameters he has in that environment, and then see the results. Yeah, he's using ChatGPT to solve world hunger. It won't solve world hunger.
That's traditional machine.
It will not make puri for you, and it will not make chapati for you. So
I'm glad that at least I was able to pick up a fight, So.
Professor Golden.
But I guess we are way over time here. But I guess one sentence, it's how panel discussions usually end. What should Kerala do to actually progress in the specific areas that you talked about? I'll leave electronics to you.
I think, in my opinion, Kerala should be designing, we should be setting up environment for startups that can design chips. We are giving tools free and we are giving monies, and we should make sure the management here, if they need my help, we need to start creating that mindset of creativity and innovation. That's what this university is all about. And there's a need for sure. So I think that I would leave that as a very important thing for Kerala.
Thank you.
I would say it's a good thing that so many of you are playing with. I mean, I don't want the AI thing to be reduced to just ChatGPT and so on. There's more to AI, just like I said before. AI is not equal to machine learning. There are lots of people who think that way, you know. That's an unbelievably restricted way of looking at things. But in general, the idea of, even if you focus only on GPT kind of stuff, trying to see where it works, where it doesn't work, and building certain kind of experience-based way of judging it would be a valuable contribution. So, I mean, lots of new technologies get looked at in a critical way as part of, you know, doing a PhD, right? The analytical thinking that you go through, trying out various kinds of use cases and so on. So, in that sense, it's an area that's open for many pieces, masters or PhDs. So, what better place than a university kind of environment in conjunction with even use case kinds of things. One of the good things I like about the UK is the fact that I first got roped into blockchain academy, right? It's what I looked like in the UK, and then I got somebody else, got put into the governing board, right? What I have found to be a great thing about how things happened even before it became the UK is the fact that there's a lot of involvement with Kerala government kind of entities, as well as some of the smaller private companies and so on, where you guys are working closely together. And so I will encourage more of those things to happen, not just paper writing, but in fact putting into practice by building systems and making them available to government as well as non-governmental organizations for them to play with. So in that sense, there's scope for lots of
So I think your question was, what should Kerala, not necessarily just the UK. So, no, one of the beauties of this state is the extraordinary wealth you have here in biodiversity. This is probably one of the richest in the country, and perhaps, you know, even globally would be of great interest. And of course, there's already been a lot done in the Western Ghats and so on. A lot of that work has been taxonomic, you know, essentially cataloguing things together. And you know, so now's the time to start thinking about what you can do with it digitally, how you could leverage this biodiversity, and you know, and it would also be interesting to tie that into the ecological sciences group within the UK and think about how that be. I think that might be very important.
Yeah, actually we are not on. We are starting the efforts called Kerala Genome Data Center, which will be hosted in an AI Center of Excellence in the UK itself, in partnership with NVIDIA and right? So we will have the flora and fauna of our
Actually, my co-founder Ramesh Hariharan is going to speak for the launch.
Fantastic. So that's what we are. We are way over time. Thank you so. Absolutely. Any question for audience? You know.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So I am the CEO of IEDC here at University College of Engineering. So actually, I thought we'd come back to Vinod, sir. Sorry for the time constraint. So actually, I have a student who came up to me and said that he has a startup idea, and he is an electronics student. The startup is for an electronics project. So what he said to me is that his problem will be solved if he can build a chip. If he can design a chip and he can build it. So what should I go back and tell to him?
Talk to Alex, right? That's what we tell everybody.
So Fab Lab, there's only one Fab Lab in Trivandrum.
No, No, he should first go to, there's a website under MIT, which is Ministry of Electronics or whatever, right? Information Electronics. He should go to their website, he should input his name, email address, phone number, and they'll ask him what the idea is. Somebody, and there's a whole group of people from there and CDAC, real designers, real actually electronics engineers who have actually fabricated chips, who will contact him and they will walk him through. It's a very involved process, you know. Before it comes to me, I have them do a lot of due diligence on that. And they will really take him through the steps to make sure, is he really ready to start specifying what the chip is, designing the logic, designing the circuit, laying it out. He needs to know how to do all that, right? You know, we are not going to teach him how to do that, to be honest. We'll give him the tools, we'll give him the money, but he needs to know what he needs to do in order to get what he wants.
Yeah, he said that he can do it, but where to do it?
Where to do it? For chip design, you don't need a classroom or a classroom or a fab, or he can sit at his desk wherever he sits.
Use a tool and do it, actually.
Bedroom.
I think what I would do is I would go to Alex,
Okay.
make use of Maker Village and any fab facilities.
So
there.
where do you make, you mean he needs a space to sit down?
Yeah,
and
what do
work?
you?
Yeah, he needs a space too.
We'll make sure that he does.
Okay.
Yeah. You let me know. You are IEDC, so you can actually come and talk to us.
Okay.
IEDC, by the way, is in Innovation Entrepreneurship Development Center.
I bet you there are some, by the way, just a question. Aren't there some incubators in Kerala?
Yeah, that's us.
That is one of the where you can go, get all the connectivity and all the inputs that you get.
I thought I heard him ask, where will he then actually fabricate the chip also?
Yeah, we have a hardware incubator called Maker Village that is based out of.
Yeah, but at scale.
Yeah.
Is that what you asked with fabrication?
It's
of
just a
chip?
prototyping that you want to do, right? Design the chip.
And also produce it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll answer that for you. So what happens is the chip fabrication is a very expensive process. So what we have done is we have tied up with, say, TSMC, which is world number one company, where on one wafer, as you know, in a lot, there are n number of wafers. On one wafer, you can put maybe 100 different chips from 100 different startups. And when we process all of them, he will get all of them back because his will be one. Then he can package it and test it and probe it and see whether it's doing the job. It's called MPW. So we pay for that. Yeah, that was on that slide that we paid for. When I said come to proof of concept means you design the chip, you fabricate the chip, then you test the chip, and you say, did it really do what I thought it would? We do the whole thing. It's really a very serious commitment on behalf of Government of India. And there are, like I said, you look at 26 companies, out of which we have funded 7 so far. And we're going to get even more liberal and fund even more, just to start, get it going and get people to feel like there's not too much bureaucracy. I'm trying to cut back on too much, check and balance before you can go get something done. But, government is government, give me some time to get there. But there's really a good intent to make it happen.
No, so you just be in touch. We'll take it from there. Yeah. We'll get you in touch with Vinod and my team.
Alex is very well connected.
Very well connected
Go all
with
the way
my-
to, highest levels to make sure this gets done. And by the way, it's good that you do that because it's a new thing that they are doing too. The more you ask these questions, the more they will learn where the bottlenecks are and the quicker they'll solve it for the next guy. So please don't be shy. Push us, okay?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's not every day that we get to meet or have people like this on the same stage. I wish we had more time and more discussions. It's a very interesting topic. We could get to very, very, very interesting turns and twists about how world is going to shape up. But I thank all of you, each and every one of you scientists, to be here on stage and through the entire day and motivate the students and help us with your knowledge. And we look forward to having a continued partnership with each of you in the days to come. Thank you everyone for a wonderful listening. Thank you.
So thank you to our panelists for that incredible and insightful session. I now request Professor Dr. K.G. Satish Kumar, Chair, School of Digital Humanities and Liberal Arts, and Vice President of the Institution Innovation Council, Digital University Kerala, for presenting the mementos to our distinguished guests. So please. So thank you, sir. Now we'll be presenting the Award of Excellence for the top scorers of each program of the respective schools. And now I invite Professor Dr. Alex, Dean Academics, Digital University Kerala, to kindly announce the award winners. And I also request Shri Vinod Dham to kindly present the awards.
We now have the award for academic excellence for each of the school. So the first school, School of Computer Science, we have Shivam, who's specialized in MSc Computer Science, with specialization in cybersecurity. Shivam is party. He wants to join. All right. So, I'll take it. So we have MSc Computer Science with specialization in machine intelligence, Amrita Ray. Next, Archita Ray. Archita. MTech Computer Science and Engineering, Renji Raji. MSc Computer Science with specialization in data analytics, Devika N. I didn't win any award, by the way. A little bit jealous. MSc Computer Science with specialization in geospatial analytics, Ahmad Shahid Shahjahan. Riya Umar. Electronics Engineering, Abel Joseph, Joe. Ajay Das, you are. MSc Ecology with specialization in ecological informatics, Hari Krishna is. Ecological informatics. KG Edu Krishna. And finally, Saeed Bajar. That's it. Thank you. Good round of applause for all the.
Sir, we have reached now to the end of the session. Thank you once again to our esteemed guests for their invaluable presence and for redefining our perspectives on the emerging technologies. Thank you to the wonderful audience for joining us to this informative session on this special day. So wishing you all good luck in all your ventures. Thank you, and we have arranged for refreshments outside. Please join us.